Welcome to another wonderful Saturday, and it's extra wonderful, may I say even absolutely fabulous and fantastic, because I'm channeling the fairies. And for those of you who have been following me for a while, know that the fairies are my number one most favorite being to connect with. And as I say that, my very lovely and supportive male guardian angel Randolph just rolled his eyes at me. Because he's always talking to me and is just as supportive, and I always ask him a million questions, but love you too. Fairies are just extra special, and it's probably just because they were the first energy that I was really aware of when I was very little. And so they've had a special place for me. Oh. Hey Bernadette, glad you were able to make it on, and hi Maggie. And Giovanna, it feels like it's been forever since I've done one of these lives, but I think it's only been maybe 2 weeks. But I don't know about all of you guys, but my sense of time, even though this whole situation we're all experiencing has not really changed my day-to-day life very much, since I was already working online and at home. It's like there's just this collective sense of timelessness happening, and I keep forgetting silly things like, oops, it was just recycling yesterday. Drat. And I even had it written on my calendar. But that's also the wonderful thing about timelessness, is it doesn't really matter what day of the week it is or what hour of the day it is. You're just in this bubble of bliss. And saying that, I'm wishing all of you well, because I know there's all sorts of things that we are experiencing. Wishing you all well, and really glad that you can all come and join me for this live today. So I do have a little bit of news just to mention, just as people are continuing to come on, before I'm going to tune into the fairies and whatever message they have for all of us today. And most of you have probably seen it, since I did just post an announcement for it yesterday in the group, which is that I'm going to be holding a mediumship course coming up very soon with the wonderful medium Madeline Manson, as well as wonderful medium and healer Jean Healy Power, both of whom you've probably seen in the group as well, particularly Madeline's wonderful written channeled messages. And so, specific details about this course. I'm so excited about it that I'm skipping the things like dates. So, the Channeling Spirit for Beginners course. So it will be geared toward anyone who is just starting out on the path of mediumship, or you've perhaps dabbled in it somewhat, but are wanting more practice. It's going to be held in a private Facebook group starting on May 31st through till June 14th, so that's 2 weeks. And like I said, with mentioning the practice element, this course is really geared toward that. It's going to have a mix of pre-recorded and live material, where us mediums will be talking about a variety of different topics from things such as chakras and crystals and eclairs, boundaries, and so on. But most of the time will be made up with practice sessions where students can pop on with us mediums, and students can also practice live with each other, or they can practice just privately over video messenger as well, and practice channeling together, whether that's just using cards or sensing energy or wherever each individual is at. What I love about this course is that you can very much do it at your own pace, even though there are scheduled lives every single day. All the material is remaining up in the course for the duration, and you'll get it emailed to you afterwards. So no matter what's going on in your day-to-day life, you'll be able to work through it at your own pace. Ooh, hey Madeline, there's Madeline here. Yeah, just talking about the course, Madeline. So, where can you go to find a little bit more about this course in terms of exactly what topics we're going to be covering? You can pop over to my Facebook business page, A.R. Reynolds. It's under the events there. Or you can pop over to my website, arreynolds.com. And to register, the cost is $125 USD, and you can just send that through the link for the course, which is on my website, arreynolds.com. But yeah, I am really, really, really excited about it, and sorry, shaking with a little bit of giddiness, also because the fairies are here, and I love helping people to learn how to connect with spirit themselves. It's been something that has absolutely turned my entire life upside down and backwards in the best way possible to have been reconnecting. Going back to the fairies, I used to be really connected with them when I was a child, and then I had those teenage years and my early 20s where it got shut off. And since reconnecting, it's been the most beautiful, magical experience that has taken me back to childhood, and just that belief, that trust that there are so many amazing beings out there who have our backs all the time. Even if you feel like you can't sense them and you're like, I have no idea, I'm just blindly walking in the dark here. They're there. They're standing with you in the dark. They probably have a hand on your shoulder and are subtly guiding you through that seeming dark space. And the more you just talk to them, and that can just be you talking out loud, just saying, hey fairies, I just wanted to say hello. Or when you're going outside, go talk to a tree. And just doing that in itself, okay, is you connecting with spirit. So it doesn't matter where you're at, but speaking of sensing energy, as I tune into the fairies today, I wanted to take all of you along with me in a little bit of practice right here and now in sensing the fairies. So a number of you who have been around in the group and for quite a long time, I know you've probably gone through this with me. A number of you have even been in a past course with me. But for those of you who are new, I see a few newer people in here as well. Well, we're going to sense the fairies energy. And they are special fairies. I've actually not channeled these particular fairies live before. Usually when I've channeled fairies, they're the neighborhood fairies who are just over in this little park that I'll have to go visit soon and do another video, because it's been almost a year, I think, since I last did a video and shared it with all of you guys. But it's a beautiful park area that is absolutely untouched, because where I live used to be basically a combination of forest and orchards. So it wasn't built up until very, very recently, in probably about the last 50 years. And this one little area's never had anything built on it, aside from someone built this cute little log bench and table. So that area is an absolute nexus of fairy energy, and is where they travel between all the different dimensions. So it's a very, very busy area. And I usually channel the fairies from over there, since they tend to be the ones who hang out in my house here. But I was chatting with my mom just yesterday, and since yesterday, the fairies right from my hometown where I grew up, those fairies who I connected with when I was a very little girl, they're the ones who have popped in today, which is just making me extra giddy. So, ooh. Oh, hello Ursula. Hey Shane, wonderful to see you. And Eileen, and oh Kirsty, you made it! Okay. Alright, so for those of you just popping on in, alright, when I go to tune in to spirit, just to kind of really slow things down to like the step by step, the first thing is just clearing your mind. So for me, that has been always just a process of taking a few deep breaths, since meditation is something that I've done regularly for quite a long time. So it's really part of my practice, that I've just trained my body into taking a few deep breaths, and then I'm able to just get into kind of a blank space. If you're not as used to doing meditation, the thing that I always recommend, and that works for me on days when I'm really busy and running around and spirit drops in, and then another one drops in and another one drops in, and I'm like, I have a whole party of spirit around me and I'm really busy. What works is just pretending you're back in school and you're in a class that you were really bored with and you started daydreaming. So get yourself into that daydreaming state. And that too works for clearing your mind, just to allow yourself to start feeling the energy. And when I talk about feeling the energy, that's everything from, you may feel the energy physically in your body. So some people start feeling tingles on certain parts of their body, or they feel pressure on certain chakra points, or they feel warmth in certain chakra points. There's all sorts of different things that people feel, and it varies from person to person. And other people may get words dropping into their head, or they may get images in their mind, or you may be someone who gets colors or sounds. Whatever it is, as you get your mind into that still space, just take note of whatever you feel. And when I say feel, that encompasses everything from what pops into your head to what you're physically feeling in your body or even around your body as well. Because you may get a sense of, okay, I feel there's this bubble of energy standing right next to me. That kind of thing. Okay. And for fairies, I'm really curious when you guys call in the fairies or have fairies around you, how do they feel to you? When I have fairies around them, around me, I get, as you can see, very, very giddy. Well, more than usual, honestly. And my heart rate speeds up quite a bit. So it's kind of like this sudden, just jittering, extreme excitement, almost like if I was still drinking coffee and I had just drank like 5 cups of it at once or something. Something ridiculous. It's like just extreme jitteriness. And that's in terms of the feeling. And then also I get, always with the fairies, I hear quite a bit from them. Usually what signifies they're showing up is I'll start hearing bells or giggling, or I'll be walking outside and be passing a bush or a tree and just hear bells or giggling, and I'm like, yeah, that's the fairies. They're just being shy and silly. Some of them are quite shy and they just like pop up out of the bushes, or you'll just hear the giggling kind of coming from somewhere, and that's the fairies. It always serves to just bring my mood up. They're so wonderful. And also with the fairies, they also, I see them in certain shapes and sizes and colors as well. So some of you only may be at a point where you're just getting a sense of one of those things, where you're just feeling something or hearing something or seeing something. But the more you practice, the more you'll find that you're starting to get all of those different elements coming together as well. So these fairies are smaller than the fairies over in my little neighborhood portal area, basically, is the best name that I've ever come up with it. And they also have quite this beautiful kind of soft spring green color, which really fits with the name that when they popped in when my mom and I were talking yesterday, they introduced themselves as the garden fairies. So rather fitting, really, being that springtime's when we do all the planting in the gardens. And that's also quite interesting because, again, the fairies who I've connected with more regularly over in that little neighborhood portal area, they tend to be yellows and orange and blue, and the lead fairy over there is really, really quite tall, and she's more of kind of an indigo color, and the few green fairies from that location have always been quite a dark kind of foresty green rather than this brighter kind of spring green color, which is fascinating to then realize, wow, you've got fairies literally all across the spectrum of colors. But then again, they do have different jobs that are across the whole spectrum of different natural environments and areas. There's even water fairies out there who hang out around the ponds. So just taking a pause just to catch up because I've noticed there's been a couple comments, and oh, you hear the bells and giggling too, and laughing. Yeah, yeah, you can't contain yourself either. So like, glad it's not just me. Sometimes I wonder about the people who like occasionally pass me when I'm out on the street, and I'll be walking down one particular street and just will break out in laughter. I always wonder what people think, but you're in like such a high bubble of just joy. I don't think about it until moments like right now where I'm like, I wonder what people think, but fairies are so much fun. So it's all good. Oops. Ooh, that's a good question, Bernadette. So Bernadette's just asking, for those of you who might not have caught it, just if there are as many boy fairies as if there are girls, which I've never actually asked before. Okay, got one of the fairies stepping forward. Okay. Huh, interesting. So Bernadette, this particular fairy, female fairy, is saying that it really depends on the area that they primarily focus upon, or that they reside in. And she's saying kind of that they reside in the sense of they're not always permanently in a certain location. They're often kind of moving through different dimensions, but for when they're here on the earthly plane in a certain area, the ratio of kind of girls to boys in terms of fairies depends on the kind of energy that is needed in that area. So if there is more need for more of a structured, ordered type of energy, which is more of the masculine energy, then there'll be more male fairies. And if there's more of the nurturing energy that is needed, then there'll be more female fairies. So there is absolutely male and female fairies, and just depending on what is needed is what determines whether there's more female fairies or male fairies. So she's talking about me now, and is just saying that because I'm quite strong and direct, very decisive energy, calling me energy, and those are very masculine. She says that's why for me I always only interact with the female fairies. Fascinating. Thanks for that question, Bernadette. Ooh. Hey, Christopher. Awesome to see you. Ooh, you've got 3 around you, Maggie. Oh, that's wonderful. That's so wonderful. Ooh. Okay, so Michelle is saying that... Aw, you saw what looked like a little Irishman with a tall green hat and kind of a red-orange beard. Oh my gosh. Yeah, he wasn't an elf. Yeah, the sense that I'm getting is that here was a brownie. Aw. Yeah, he really is. He's really got that kind of orangey aura to him. Oh, very mischievous feeling. That's so cute. Wonderful. Yeah, kind of like a. Mm-hmm. Sorry, they're just chatting at me right now, and they do have a message that they wanted to relay. And they say that they wish to give all of you just some reminders. Because it is springtime. And they know many of you are finding more time to go out and be among nature and to garden, to dig your hands into the earth, to put your feet into the grass. They want you to do more of this. But as you're doing more of this, okay, it's that fairy who I was speaking to first. He's definitely the leader of the group. I've got about 5 of them here right now. And she says, fellow children of Gaia, at this time, we are stepping forward to encourage each of you to focus on joy, to start something new, be it exploring the actions that you are taking now, the thoughts that you are having now, and the activities that you are doing now that may be unique from what you are used to. But above all, create. For through creation, you will be transformed, and you will transform all that is around you. No matter what is around you in this moment, keep your eyes upon the horizon. Keep your eyes forward. And know that each step you take in each moment is taking you closer to that horizon. And all challenges that you come across are but a valley that you are stepping over. And so that is why we encourage you to keep your eyes up and on the horizon. There is no need to look down and gaze deeply into whatever troubles you are facing. You see them as you step over them. And that is all you need to do. Focus upon abundance of joy and love and passion. Focus upon the abundance of life. And that is why we are so happy many of you are using this time to go outside, to be outside, to slow down. And we encourage you to continue doing this and to note what nature is doing and to follow suit. What do the birds say outside your window? How do the trees feel? What flowers are blooming? Notice. Speak with all of these and be among them and do as they do. In doing all of this, you are practicing balance. And that is what being here is about. To accept each moment of doubt, just as you must accept a moment of joy. Notice those moments of joy and cherish them as they come. For the more you focus upon just a moment of joy, the greater it will feel in the face of any doubt or fear. Oh. She's given me this really beautiful image just to... She says, for my final words, just as rain comes, sun follows, and plants need both in order to grow, and so do you. And the image that she gave me just in that last moment was of this beautiful, beautiful hill, and the sun is just arcing down upon it and lighting up this hill, and just with splotches of sunlight, and all the grass on the hill is sparkling because it's covered in little droplets of rain. Oh, so beautiful. All right. She's saying, now. We will answer questions. We know you have many. Aw. So, let's see. Let's go back. Ooh. Okay. Another good question, yeah. Okay. Alright. So, regarding your question, Bernadette, about what do male fairies do? I'm getting that... okay. She says male fairies are... Male fairies are the ones who... Okay, they have a couple different... Yeah, okay. Just trying to find the word specifically for it too. She says she doesn't want us to genderize and to see things as binary and as either and or and exclusive. So she's saying often they're the ones who will, let's see, work upon a location. So she's bringing to mind an area that's of lower vibration in that it has been quite neglected, or there's been a lot of just misuse of nature, so garbage there, or it's not been treated well. And the male fairies will go in first, and they will pull out all of the heavier vibrations and kind of like lay groundwork down in not like, again, this is where she's not wanting us to think two genders, not in the sense of being really, really ordered and directing things in how we may think of just the male gender in like the way our society currently works, but in the sense of, because their energy is more able to just move through and kind of cut through the heavier vibrations. That's why they're the ones who come in to set, essentially, she's like laying the groundwork. Like, she's giving me this image of the, like when you're putting down wood to make a raised garden bed. And then the female fairies will be coming in as the male fairies are there and bringing in more of their nurturing energy, more of the love to help keep the vibration then remaining high. So male fairies are going in, clearing the space, and then the female are then helping it to remain as it is, and then they start working together, kind of balancing off each other to keep it growing and raising in vibration by continually removing any lower vibrations and then setting, like, clearing the space for then a higher vibration to come in. Ooh, really fascinating. Good questions today, Bernadette. Ooh, another good question. My gosh, you guys have some good questions today. Oh. Well, Kirsty, right away, for your question about why you've been drawn to certain things about fairies so long, is because you've absolutely had lives as a fairy, and because you have fairies around you and they are wanting to connect with you. This is their way of connecting with you and letting you know that they're around. Aw, that's really, really cool. So if you haven't chatted with them much, Kirsty, just talk with them. Whether you're in the process of looking at a fairy poem or illustration, or picking up one of those beautiful children's books about fairies, which, frankly, myself, I have so many children's books about fairies that are not just from my childhood, but as an adult I've gone and I've picked up because they are just, they're beautiful and just inspire such magic. Oh yeah, Michelle, definitely you've got some mischievous energies around you. Aww. You too, Ursula. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Hoping that you would know. Oh my gosh, yes. Hoping that you'd know when you eventually saw them what they would look like. Yep. Oh, good questions. Why are the fairies? Okay, so she's just laughing. She says that we have always been here. But she says, there has been a long time in the sense of how you would calculate it, where we have not nearly been as active as we are now. Because we were not meant to be fully known to you and to be helping to the degree that we are now. We stepped back when the vibrations upon Gaia's back lowered as per her own agreement with Source. And so it was then that we began to reside more upon other dimensions. However, we have never fully left. We have always been here. This is our home. But we did not wish to connect and to make ourselves fully known until the time that all of you would be more ready to see us and to know us as we are. And to this she's also adding just an image of like a book of Grimm's fairy tales. And she says that many of the stories that we have today about fairies, and she says, my brothers and sisters, and to that she's meaning the brownies, the leprechauns, the selkies, the mermaids, the dragons, the elves, the dwarves, all the other beings out there, that all those stories that we have, those have come from encounters that humans have had with them. But because of the lower vibrations in those times, that's why many of those stories, they're really, really encouraging us now. And this is something I've heard before quite a lot, that they're encouraging us now to connect with them as they are now, and to put aside any of our assumptions or past opinions and thoughts about them based on stories that have been told and written about them. Because not all of those stories are truth in the sense of they came from just a lower vibrational time. So they've been colored by that lower vibration. And now they're wishing to have us to create new stories, to tell, to speak about them as they truly are. Which is really, really wonderful. It makes me feel so, so, so fortunate to be having this lifetime right now, to be at this huge transitional point when so many beings are stepping forward again and letting us know who they really are, and that they're even here. Some of you may have been, some of you may have caught, it was maybe 6 months ago now, I can't even remember, when I channeled the Ogopogo, which has always been known as the lake monster that lives in the Okanagan Lake in central British Columbia, where I grew up here in Canada. And connecting with that particular being was amazing because although I had always been really, really fascinated by the Ogopogo and thought it was so cool to grow up next to a lake with such a creature in it and just all those stories, the stories about the Ogopogo, which were originally told by the local First Nations groups, definitely had some elements of lower vibration to them, because it was considered a bit of a lake monster. It was considered this creature that was somewhat dangerous. And some of those stories were used to like do, you know, that classic scare the kids from going into the lake and potentially drowning and having some sort of accident. So there was also kind of that element that was linking into it. And anyway, it was wonderful connecting with the Ogopogo and just getting a sense for that sea serpent's energy, which is very, very serpent-like, and yet very, very calm and placid, and it was wonderful. It almost made me kind of fall asleep a little bit. Felt like I was just floating on my back in the water, being around the Ogopogo's energy. So totally different from what you'd think based on some of the stories that are told, or even I had an aunt who was out in the lake and she saw the Ogopogo's huge eye. Was slightly terrified by it. But again, it's just that element that we're starting to move beyond of being open to the unknown rather than just being straight up afraid of it. So that's the other wonderful thing about being in this transitional kind of space where the light is anchored and it's only growing more and more and more, that we are all so much more open and willing to hear and listen and experience and discover for ourselves rather than reacting with fear. So, oh yeah, there's always lots of fairies in the forest, Charlotta. So many fairies in the forest. Oh my gosh. I can't walk through any part of the forest here without having almost this chorus of giggles and bells just following me. And then having some of the less shy elementals just running out in front of me. Like, often brownies will do that, or leprechauns will do that. And I'll just see like a little streak of orange and be like, whoa, what was that? And just laugh. And be like, yep, there goes another little brownie. Ooh. Aw. Ooh, that's a good question. Gardening advice. Ooh, it does sound beautiful though, living all among pine trees. I love pine trees. I live among a lot of pine trees myself that all kind of border the ocean beach that I'm on. But yeah, doesn't necessarily make for the potentially best soil. So let's see what they say. Okay, so first thing, again, it's this fairy who's been speaking all today, and she says that first you must focus on just giving it space, giving it time, and allowing it to take what will be more than one season of clearing the earth to allow whatever you plant in it to flourish. So she's recommending not only for you to just focus upon making the soil richer by... She's just putting into my mind a couple different, I think they're like different, like literal gardening methods. I'm not really up on gardening myself. Unfortunately, not really having the space for it. And she's giving different methods of basically layering the soil or putting different things into the soil to allow it to break down, to allow it to have like more fertilizer put into it, like putting compost layers into it. That's kind of one of the images she's got, or like cardboard into it, and allowing, and she says most of all to allow the animals to come back into the soil. So all those earthworms, she says, as the earthworms come back, that will show your soil has begun to heal. Okay, and she says to treat soil just as you would treat any plant, that it too is a living thing, for it has life within it. It has life energy. It is life energy. And to speak with it, to put your hands within it, to work it with your hands, to work it with your feet, to give it your own energy. But most of all, she says, be patient, for there is a lot that is being released upon or within that soil. But it is happening, and she says she's really happy with how it is beginning to grow. Aww. Wow. So hopefully that helps a little bit, Ursula. Learning so much today, you guys. Really, like I said, don't know much about gardening, didn't know anything really much about the male fairies and their jobs. Fantastic questions, you guys. Ooh. Another good question, Eileen. Ooh. Yeah, what do you guys like? Just got a chorus of everything. And then kind of the leader of the little group just looked back at the other four fairies. She shook her head. She said, yes, yes, everything, but we do love plants of bright colors, and we love plants that you love. For whatever you plant, you are not just planting for us, but you are planting for yourself, and we wish to work with you. And so we want you to plant whatever brings you joy. So plant bright colors, plant many colors, and plant what brings you joy. Aw, that's cute. Yeah, like she's put into my mind again because I don't really know plant names very well. Okay. Oh, okay. Like little petunias. That's what she's putting into my head. Okay. Oh, you're feeling them, Christopher. That's wonderful. That's the point. That's the start. So long as you're feeling them, that is absolutely huge. Because it just keeps expanding from there. Cecily Mary Barker's illustrations. Oh my gosh. Sorry to those of you who aren't really bookworms or anything, but oh my gosh, I love her fairy drawings so much. Especially because she was very, very, very connected with the fairies herself. So her illustrations are some of the most high vibrational, just purely full of the fairies' energy themselves and their hand in what she drew. The fairies were absolutely with her as she drew those illustrations. Oh my gosh. Okay, fangirling is done. Yeah. Yeah, they do absolutely come in colors, Dolly. I was talking about it, I don't know if you were there right at the very, very beginning when I was talking about how I personally sense the fairies. And yeah, they absolutely do come in so many different colors. The garden fairies that I'm speaking with today are a very, very kind of soft spring green color, which is quite unique because most of the fairies that I've connected with have been a lot deeper in color and very, very different. They also come in different sizes as well. So often in certain areas you may find that there's usually a fairy who considers themselves like the leader of the whole group, and they're usually quite tall, coming up to, like in terms of size, usually up to like waist height for me, or a little bit higher. And then fairies are all sizes smaller than that. The garden fairies that I'm connecting with today are probably some of the smallest that I've connected with. And then there's these sprites, which are kind of like a subset of fairies, but a little bit different. They're even more sparkly, and they're like really, 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 really like hyper, but in a good way. They're very, very, very small. But yeah, absolutely, they do come in all sorts of different colors, and that has to do with the different jobs that they have. So fairies who are looking after ponds or creeks or rivers or water areas are often different colors of blue, whereas fairies that you're finding in the forest are often kind of like a darker green, or they're often kind of like an orange in color, sometimes a yellow, and they even have different colors depending on just energetically what they're working with, and not just their environments, because those orange colored fairies are often quite a bit louder, and they're great for just building up your confidence. Whereas blue colored fairies can really help with your communication, so they're almost following in with what we would consider certain chakra colors as well. Yes. Yeah, elementals do quite often have names, Michelle. Not all of them will give a name. I've certainly had elementals before who have told me that they don't care what I call them, and they've just said, just make up a name. And when they do that, I'm just like, but no, I want you to pick the name. So, yeah, because elementals, when they communicate with each other, just like with spirit in general, they recognize each other based on their energetic signatures. So that's how they recognize each other, and they see who is who and how they identify each other. So yeah, it's a totally different kind of way of interacting compared to us, where we consider names as kind of our identifying tags. But yeah, to make it easier when they're connecting with us, they will often take a name on, because again, we like having names to be able to identify differences or to recognize who is who. Yeah, and it's Adolfo. It's just, oh, mischievous one, Michelle. Oh my gosh, I will not be surprised if you're going to keep experiencing just things kind of moving or silly little tricks being played. Oh my gosh. Ooh, oh, beautiful, Judy. Oh my gosh. It's wonderful living right next to the woods. It's Okay, so Judy, yeah, getting a definite sense of yes, and they're really, really, really excited about your willingness to connect with them and for recognizing them. That's just something that, let's see, just coming from me first, it just takes practice in go out into the woods and talk with them, and as you're talking to them, just pay attention to how your body feels, both like just are there tingles going up and down your arm, or are you feeling energy that's just outside of your body and around you? Are you getting any other senses in terms of auditory or in your mind with images or colors or sounds or words that you're picking up? So just going through that process just by putting yourself out there and just talking with them and conversing with them and noticing it, and definitely keep track of it as well if you can in some sort of journal if that's something that works for you. And let's see, I'm just gonna tune in and see what those fairies might do to let you know that they're there. Okay. So they're saying to just pay attention to being tickled. They say they're going to tickle you a lot, and they want you to listen. So listen for them. So that laughter that I've talked about quite a bit. Oh my gosh, tickling you though. Oh, you've got a mischievous bunch of fairies back there. Oh, I love it though. Yep. Yeah, absolutely, Kirsty. There are, and I only just recently learned this myself when I, a couple of weeks ago, managed to accidentally do some harm to my cactus because I didn't water it for months and months. And I got visited by a house fairy. So there are fairies who are within our living spaces, and they tend to frequent around whatever plants that we have in our living spaces, or they also often are there for any animals. So if you have any pets, there's fairies that are often around those pets as well. So whether it's fairies or plants, yeah. Indoors, there are some house fairies, and they look after those plants and those pets, just in the sense of keeping the vibration up, and also, here's the funny bit, in helping you to know how to care for those plants or those animals, or giving them care. And when I was not particularly kind to the cactus, I got quite a talking to for not paying attention to that fairy and that cactus. And I was like, my house is full with fairies all the time. So, anyway, something new that I learned too. So I'm so much more hyper aware about my plants these days. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, healing from the fairies of the night. Oh, that's beautiful, Madeline. Okay. Yeah, let's see. Yep. So, oh, Ursula, yeah. They're really, really excited that you're wanting to connect with them, and they want you to be connecting with them daily. Okay, and to start making it a habit to speak with them. And whether this is when you're just indoors or when you're going outside, make it a habit to speak with us every day. Tell us whatever is on your mind in that moment. For we wish to help you to hold on to moments of joy, so that those moments of joy can blossom into constant joy. We wish for you to also when you're outdoors, to give to us whatever in that moment you don't wish to hold on to. For that is what we can turn into fertilizer for things that are growing, and for the light that you are anchoring and they're giving me again, so I don't know how often you do it or if you do it much, but they're giving me again the image of just putting your hands right into the soil, just really, really burrowing your hands into it. And as you're doing that, to be using that as not only like a physical anchor, but an energetic anchor to connecting yourself into the earth, and through that releasing whatever you're feeling in that moment that you may wish to let go of, or if there has been something that's been on your mind that you're wishing to let go of, to do that, so that as you move forward, connecting in with the earth is not just a moment of release, but it is a moment of connecting with joy and just feeling joy as you're doing that. So there's a task for you, really getting your hands physically deep into the soil. Ooh, cool. Ooh. Good question, Michelle. Okay. And nope. Okay. So getting a no, they don't have any place that they prefer more than others. They move around a lot, so they are in many places all at once. So you will find them anywhere throughout the forest. They're just saying stop and listen. For and it's that leader fairy again. She's stepping forward. She's saying some of us are still shy, are not used to connecting with humans, and so we are often at the fringes, just watching. She says, think of us as you may think of an animal that you meet in the woods. You would not rush toward a deer, and to see a deer, you must be still and listen. Do the same for us, especially as you go deep in places where not many humans walk. Interesting analogy. I'm laughing, you guys, because where I live, and some of you may have this as well, depending on where you live, but there's an absolute overgrowth of deer where I live, to the point where if you walk outside, even if you're outside for 10 minutes, you are guaranteed to run across at least one deer, if not three. And there's certain locations where you are guaranteed to walk past whole herds of them that have just permanently taken up residence in certain parks and cemeteries and edges of beaches and corners of forests, and they're always eating everybody's flowers and the flowers on the trees and crossing the roads all the time. So that just, I had to laugh at that analogy because there's just so many deer here that they're basically the same as the population of dogs. Anyway. Let's see. Just gonna tune in, Michelle, and see if they do have a message for you as well. Okay. So, Michelle, the fairies are saying that they wish for you to spend even more time in nature than you already have been. And when you're out in nature, to not just move through nature, but take the time to stop and sit somewhere and just stay in that spot. And as you're staying in that spot, they want you to practice just feeling all that is around you. And they say this may begin as you just noting what you physically hear, what you physically see, what you physically may feel wherever you were sitting or with whatever you were touching. But the more you are doing this, they want you to begin listening for the energy. Okay, yeah. And she says, it is listening from within, not listening with your ear. It is listening to the stillness and feeling what is around you. And believing, most of all, believing that whatever comes to your mind, whatever arises in any moment, is true. Do not doubt yourself with whatever you sense or feel or hear, for it is what you are sensing in that moment. And if we wish to redirect you or correct you, we will. For we're with you and guiding you. Whatever questions you ask, we will continue to answer you until you receive it. Do not doubt the answers you receive. Oh, beautiful. You really do have a lot of elemental energy around you, Michelle. Oh my gosh. Lots of elemental energy around you. Because in addition to all those fairies, yeah, definitely have brownies. And you've got dwarves there as well. There's dwarves around you. They're really, really big on helping to inspire people to create and not just literally go and like create something in terms of making a painting or whatnot, but just creating in terms of manifestation. And elves too. Yeah. particularly in the woods. You've got a lot of elves in a wooded area near you. That is so cool. Ooh. Oh yeah, the night fairies are wonderful. Yeah, and the night fairies too, I'd totally forgotten about them as well. There really are fairies for just about every time of the day and moment and location and type of energy. Yeah. That's a good question, Julie. Yeah, so how do you know if you've got fairies around your house? Because it took me up until a couple weeks ago to realize that I had ones that were specifically designated to the house, and it wasn't just the entire, honestly, what would you guys say? Be the best word. Okay. They're calling themselves my tribe. So I've got a tribe of fairies who hang out with me permanently. And anyway, for kind of differentiating between all those energies and to sense, well, how do you know if you've got fairies around the house? You can start by just asking. So asking fairies in general to give you a sign that they're around. You can specifically talk with the house fairies. So you can ask specific types of fairies if you want, or just talk to fairies in general. It's whatever you're most comfortable with. And just ask for a sign to be given. You can even ask for something more specific if you've asked and you're still not picking anything up, although as she was just saying, like any spirit, when they're trying to get a message across, they will keep pestering you in every single angle until it gets through. But you can absolutely ask for something specific that you know that you will pick up if you haven't been noticing anything. And you can also absolutely ask them to come into your space and ask them and just welcome them to your space and let them know that they're allowed in, especially for those of you who may have asked Archangel Michael or any other being that you connect with who works in terms of just kind of protecting a space. If you've asked Archangel Michael to come in, he isn't going to let any being in unless you say, hey, I want the fairies to come in, and you give that permission. So that's also something to keep in mind if you have done that. But once you do give permission, they'll pretty much be always in, unless you tell them, please don't bother me at night. But anyway, I'm getting a bit sidetracked. So it really just comes down to, Julie, to when you're asking if they're around and if they're there, just in picking up that answer. So whether it's that particular sign, or if you want to start practicing, or you have been practicing just quieting your mind and sensing energy around you as well, which can, like I said at the very, very beginning, can come in the form of when you ask just a basic yes or no question of, are there fairies around, is there a fairy around me right now, or are there fairies around me right now? And then you're feeling within your body, do you get the sense of being pulled up, pushed forward? Do you get a sense of lightness, of brightness, of kind of just this sparkling yes, yes, yes kind of feeling running through you? If you get that when you've asked a yes or no question like that, then yes, there are absolutely fairies around you. Now, if you ask the same question and said, are there any fairies around me right now? And you got this sinking feeling, you kind of had a pullback, or your stomach felt heavy or tight, or you get in your mind kind of just this chorus of no, 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 or just this resounding no, then yeah, no, there aren't any fairies around you. So that's a really, really good method to practice as well, especially if you're just getting started with connecting with energies, because yes or no questions really help to keep that ego on the back seat and allow you to just go with whatever you feel first. Okay, always, always go with whatever you feel first, because that second of doubt is the ego coming in and starting to chatter and making your mind get really, really busy and being like, no, I'm gonna doubt, you're not ready, you're not good enough, and blah, 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 all that stuff. Go with whatever you feel first. Let that take a back seat for a moment. So yeah, yes or no questions are a really good way of allowing it to just sit back and really, really start sensing the answer and energy. And if you are still feeling some uncertainty about feeling yeses or nos in your body, just practice with yes or no questions where you know the answer is going to be yes, or you know the answer is going to be no. So you might say something like, is my name Alyssa? I feel kind of bright lightness, because yes, that's an answer. That is a yes. So just practicing with questions like that as well is great to do if you're still feeling that ego brain's sneaking in with the yeses or nos. And also because every single day our energy is always shifting and changing and the energy around us is shifting and changing all the time. The way that you sense energy, be it specifically sensing the fairies or just sensing an answer of yes or no within you, that can often change from day to day or week to week or month to month. I can definitely say that when I first started channeling to now, which has been, well, really openly and kind of publicly, I think it's been about a year and a half now. I can't even keep track of it. Time's just shoop. And the anyway, it's very, very, very different how I am now in terms of sensing energy to when I first started out, let alone to when I was still kind of on the cusp of knowing that fairies were around me, but I wasn't totally on board with it yet, which is a whole other story. Being on board and believing is the first step. And yes, just on the note of fairy gardens, if you guys are building fairy gardens, yes, do that. Because the more that you just surround yourself with things like fairy gardens, things that bring you joy, specific images of certain beings, the more that you are telling those beings that you want to connect with them, that you're really, really interested in them, that you're passionate about them, and the more likely they're going to come into your space. So, yeah, like, I can't tell you guys the number of times that I've had readings before where people are like asking about who they have around them, and I'm like, well, you have this being and this being, and they're like, oh my gosh, but I just have like all these pictures up in my house. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's probably why. Because you've shown them that you really want to connect with them and you love them and you want to get to know them. So yeah, more fairy houses you do, more fairy pictures you're around, the more you're gonna find them coming to you as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It is fascinating having cats and dogs around you when you're connecting with energies, because cats and dogs are so much more attuned than we are. So much more attuned. So they like pick up stuff like that. Uh, yeah, it's very fascinating. I always love going out on walks really late at night when all of the neighborhood cats are out. And it's so fun to watch them, to start following me or just stopping and staring at me, because often when I'm out on late night walks, yeah, I'm doing that exact same thing, Ursula, where I've gone and I've invited certain beings to be around me, or I'm just chatting with whichever being has dropped in and they're kind of walking along with me. All the neighborhood cats will just follow me or stop and stare and get so fascinated. Ooh. Oh, okay. Yeah, Bernadette. I'm definitely going through probably another round of connecting with the elementals over the next few weeks. So yes, I can absolutely keep track of that question for when I channel the unicorns, which may be coming up here. I'm always tuning in to spirit specifically to find out whether or not they want to step forward or if they have anything to say, and I go by that in terms of who I'm channeling week by week. But I'll keep it in mind for sure. Aww. Yeah. Yeah, do it, Ursula. Oh my gosh. Definitely put your hands in the soil. Yep. Okay. Just catching up. Alright. Aw, you're welcome. Yeah, yeah, you have so many elementals around you. It's amazing. Brownies, they're very similar to they're very similar to leprechauns, honestly. Very similar. But the difference is that brownies tend to have they're kind of like the best way I can describe it is the similarities and differences between fairies and sprites, in that fairies tend to have kind of a larger energy and they're very sparkly, very bright, very light filled and airy, but then sprites are smaller and really like just vibrating at even like a higher kind of brightness. And I said it before, they're quite hyper, so they really make me giggly being around them. So kind of between brownies and leprechauns, that's kind of similar, where leprechauns are really quite big, and brownies are generally, they present themselves very similar to leprechauns, but they have a little bit more mischief compared to the leprechauns, who are absolutely mischievous, but they go about it with a little bit more calmness, kind of in the same way that fairies are very bright and sparkly and can be mischievous, but they're a little bit more calm about it compared to the sprites. So hopefully that helps a little bit with, yeah, kind of the feeling of brownies. And they're very, very earthy as well. Definitely very earth-based. And they tend to be solitary. So whenever you run across brownies, it's usually just one. I've never come across a group of brownies before, but hey, we're all still really learning a lot about these elementals, so there could absolutely be groups of brownies out there. Every day I'm learning something new. But yeah, generally I've only come across just one of them, and they tend to frequent in kind of the lower areas of forests, so kind of in around the roots or in around kind of lower ends of gardens. You never find them sitting kind of on higher locations. They're always kind of down with the soil in the ground. All right. So, as I knew I would, because it's channeling the fairies and they're my favorite, as I said at the very beginning, I've gone on for quite some time, and I'm getting some side eyes both from my guardian angel and some agreement from the fairies themselves to finish off here for today. And absolutely, as I was just telling Bernadette, for the next couple Saturdays, I'll definitely be connecting in with other elementals as well, because, well, it's just that time of year when they're really, really, really getting even more active than usual, because nature is starting to really, really wake up as well. And I love connecting with their energy, and it's really an energy that I feel, well, I love really, really focusing on kind of during this time. So with that, thank you everyone for joining myself and the fairies for this time, as always, especially to those of you who have been hanging on for the whole time. And I will see all of you next week and let you know, probably early on in the week, whoever it is who's going to be stepping forward for next week's wonderful gathering. I should really call these gatherings, frankly, because it's like a party in here half the time, especially with all of you joining. All right, so until then, have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your Saturday. Bye for now.